Thanks very much for staying with us. In our previous stories today, we highlighted a lot about crime and the effects of crime on the national community. We have with us via Zoom today the ACP, the Assistant Commissioner of Police for the South Central Division, ACP Wayne Mystar. ACP Mystar, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's good to have you. It's always good to hear directly from the police service. We noticed that you're dressed in some fancy blue colors. Is that a shade of the blue and gray that we're going back to?
No, definitely not, sir. Today's Friday. It's part of our trying to motivate our officers and so on. So there are times that we will be dressed down.
Okay, then. Great. ACP Mystar, you have been assigned to the South Central Division. Is there a specific mandate that you have been given for that particular division?
Yes, definitely. Actually, that area covers 3 divisions: Central Division, Southern Division, and Southwestern Division.
Okay.
So the geographic location is from Caroni Bridge, goes straight down to Ikakas. It's a very large area.
Yeah.
My function is really executive oversight as a supervisor for the 3 divisional commanders to ensure that things are going how we're supposed to go as it relates to security and safety.
But one of the key concerns of businessmen in particular and the community down in those areas was the whole question of home invasions. A lot of the national community, not only down that side, but a general feeling of not being safe either in our homes or in business places. What can you say to the residents, to the businesses, that you are going to be doing differently to decrease that level of discomfort that people feel?
Okay, well, definitely. And we know that there's a challenge, and we know that there's a real concern as it relates to members of the public. So in addition to our traditional approaches where we have patrols, increased patrols in various areas, what we intend to do additionally is to empower members of the public and let them know how to make themselves a hard target.
Okay.
So we have what we call deterrent, detecting, and defending. So I'll just give you an example. So deterrent is basically having your home, if you want to say like a fortress, you have cameras, you have dogs, you have gates, you have different things that will deter the would-be person, because criminals are very lazy. They look for very easy targets, opportunities. So those are just some ways that we try to empower members of the public so they can make themselves a hard target.
But even in doing that deterring, you get the phenomenon now of persons dressed like police officers or allegedly like police officers coming into people's homes. How, even if you put up your cameras and even if you have your dogs and a police officer allegedly appears in front of your door, what do you do in that sense when a number of those cases, they have not been police officers?
Yes, so we have different scenarios. So for example, if you're home and you have your gates, your perimeter and everything, and you observe that there are persons outside appear to be police officers, right? So what we are telling members of the public now that police officers must have, in addition to the uniform, must have display of their badges. It must be displayed to the public. And you have a right to ask persons to identify themselves and indicate what is the situation. So that is the right of the public. Do not be afraid to ask them or for them to identify themselves, which they're supposed to. All police officers who are trained know they have to identify themselves to the members of the public. So that's one of the precautions that we'll take.
So if I'm at home, for instance, and I hear police, the police come knocking on my door or shouting out police, I could stop and tell them to identify themselves first?
Definitely, you can.
And in the event that they simply just kick down my door and come inside, what redress do I have?
All right, so in a situation like that, when I was given the aspect of deterrent, detecting, the other D is defending. So sometimes we know that the public will be faced with a situation where You cannot call, you cannot identify them, you cannot call somebody to verify their identification. And we ask members of the public in a case like that to comply. Because if you try to resist, then the violence could reach a particular. So you have to comply at that particular time. And if possible, you have the ability to observe probably some distinguishing features of the person or things that can help when the police officers arrive that can give us information so that we can address that situation. But we ask members of the public, do not be a hero, comply.
Okay. ACP, we're now way past 500 murders and we're hurtling towards 600. We have 2 months of the year left. It seems that we will get way past 600. What's the feeling within the high command of the police service with respect to us breaking that record this year?
Well, definitely it's not good news for us. You know, we are ensuring that we try to put things in place to keep that figure down. We know that it's a collaborative effort. We need the cooperation of members of the public to assist us in all manner. You need to comply with the instructions at that particular time because you may have no choice. And if you try to be a hero, it may go in a different way. So we are asking members of the public to, if it reaches to that stage, we then have no choice but to comply. And if it reaches a stage where you may have an opportunity to observe anything that could be helpful to the police, then that is very important.
Okay, and this is helping the police in terms of identifying, being able to identify these persons subsequent to the event.
Yes, so that we can take the necessary actions.
Right. The ACP, there's a question of trust. That the trust between the police service and the citizenry, the national community, has been broken down, and some people say irreparably so. We've seen these policemen and alleged police officers involved in kidnapping. You wonder how much the gangs have infiltrated the police service. We've seen some issues coming out of the academy. Why should we trust the police, and how are you going to go about repairing that trust of the national community?
Well, first thing we want to ask members of the public, you know, do not give up on the TTPS. We have systems where we have on our agenda to deal with rogue elements in the service. We are the only organization that prosecute their own persons, and we have done that on numerous occasions. So yes, we have rogue elements, we have bad apples, but the issue is what will we do when we have the evidence to deal with them. And once we have the evidence, they will be placed before the court, just like everybody else. So what we intend to do is to have constant dialogue with members of the public and maintaining that community partnership drive that we're on. So we know that members of the public want to give us information, they want us to operate, and we need to be accommodating to members of the public by virtue of robust community partnerships. And once we continue with that dialogue, we are going to regain the trust of the public.
Okay. And one of the things that you hear in the national community now is that we hear the same thing over and over and over. We hear, and they're very superficial changes. So the change in the uniform, for instance, going back to the khaki and blue, that's a superficial change people are talking about. What are the deep-rooted changes that we can see, without giving out too much of the national secret, that people can expect coming up to Christmas, for instance? How can we feel safer?
All right, so let's give you two examples. One, we have launched our customer service policy apparatus. If you go into a station now, you will meet what you call a customer service representative. A lot of complaints with persons saying that when they go to the stations, they weren't receiving that kind of service that is required. So we have had persons in training, that customer service rep, to give you that wow experience when you go to the station to get whatever service that you may come for. So that is one of our ways that we are helping rebuild the trust. In addition to that, we are looking at robust follow-ups. Because sometimes you may have an issue, the police will come and visit the scene, and then you may not hear from the officers for a while. So the officers have been instructed now to continue with follow-ups to keep engaging members of the public. So that is at least two ways that we are using now to help regain the trust.
Okay.
Members of the public.
All right. ACP, one last question before we wrap up. The last issue that came to the fore, the question of the bullying report. There was a report that was made of bullying, and we want to know where is that in the system at the moment?
Are you referring to the last case we had?
With Lal Chan, yes.
Right. Okay, well, that's, as a matter of fact, I'm supposed to be receiving that file today. Mm-hmm. And from there, we are going to go to the DPP for advice. Now, I want to let the members of the public know that it's not a case where we can just say we have evidence to charge because, remember, the victim has committed suicide.
Yes.
So that means it has us in a very ticklish situation. So we need to get some advice from the DPP to know what is the way forward. More and more likely, there may be an inquest into that matter.
Into the death.
By the instructions of the DPP.
Okay, ACP, there's a lot that we have to talk about again with the police service. We want to talk about the issue of how the police are handling domestic violence cases, for instance. But that's a whole new story, and therefore we'll invite you to join us again on set, perhaps this time, at ALTOS. But we want to thank you very much for spending some time with us this morning.
Well, you're welcome, and I guarantee that on the next occasion, I will be on set.
Thanks very much.